Paper 2, Question 3, Language. Missing football during lockdown. Please use the online thesaurus to look up other words for the following: frail, collective, ludicrous, and immaculate. Here are some alternative words. Frail could be weak, old, ill. Collective, group, mutual, unified. Ludicrous, ridiculous, laughable, absurd. And immaculate, neat, manicured, flawless. So in a paper 2 question 3 question, what would an examiner be looking for? What skills do you need? Here are some statements and guess which ones are the ones that are going to get you marks and which ones are not. The writer lets you know what he thinks. The writer is very persuasive. The writer believes the fashion industry produces too much. Charity shops are full of poor quality clothes. The text is nice to read. Upcycling reduces landfill. The writer does a good job. These 4 statements will not get you any marks because they do not talk about the topic or answer the question. The writer lets you know what he thinks. The writer is very persuasive. The text is nice to read. The writer does a good job. None of these are worth any marks and really are just a waste of time. These statements will get you marks because they're talking about the topic and the way the writer handles it. The writer believes the fashion industry produces too much. Charity shops are full of poor quality clothes. Upcycling reduces landfill. Notice that the writer refers to the topic and says something about it. That's what gets you marks. Today's lesson objectives are to recognise and name language techniques, to describe the implications that a reader infers, and to write a paper 2 question 3 answer about missing football. What does this imply? He told Peters to pack his golf clubs in the Jaguar. He's rich. What does this imply? She said, "I'll carry your shopping to the car if I can have those biscuits." She's hungry. What does this imply? She gritted her teeth but said nothing. She's angry. What does this imply? He hugged him tightly. He loved him. What does this imply? He packed a rucksack with a flask of tea, binoculars, sandwiches, and a bird book. He was a bird watcher. What does this imply? She reached for her tablets and tried to put on her slippers, but she struggled. She was old, ill, or injured. What does this imply? In white, she walked, laughing, along the beach with him towards their guests. It was their wedding. On a new tab, watch this film, go to YouTube and type in "missing football in lockdown." Watch this film, it's 3 minutes 38 long. It should help you understand the feelings of people who've been missing football during lockdown. So if you watch the film, you'll see that football means a lot to people and they've really been missing it and the social opportunities it provides every Saturday. This is an article from a website called When Saturday Comes, which is all about football. This is the article we're going to read today, and we're going to first of all work out what the areas that have blue boxes around them imply. What do you infer from those bits of text? Let me read this first page to you. From railway station chats to overpriced sausage rolls, it's the tiny parts of match day we miss. After almost a year without full stadiums, the connections made through football are missed just as much as the goal celebrations. February 22nd. It's a cold Tuesday night in December 2018, right at the very top of the West Stand's Brighton Amex Stadium. I'm sitting next to my rather frail dad. We look up and suddenly Albion striker Florin Andoni is off, running the length of the pitch over on the far side. He gets close to the byline, finds a way through to 2 defenders, and we both feel that joyous collective silent gasp when an entire stand gets to its feet and anticipates. Andoni takes strike, puts it away in the corner, and we're incredibly 3-0 up at half-time against old foes Crystal Palace. As local radio pundit Warren Aspinall roars on the commentary, now imprinted on our memories, "With only 10 men!" I hug the old man tightly. Probably a bit too tightly for an 82-year-old. He hugs me back. I get a touch of the Martin Tylers and shout in his ear, "We'll never see anything like this again." These are the implications from the selections that I've made in the text. So after almost a year without full stadiums, the connections made through football are missed just as much as the goal celebrations, implies that football is an important social occasion for fans. In the next box, the technique is the adjectives joyous, collective and incredibly. The implication is that it's important for group bonding. In the last box, the techniques are quotation and adjective, never. The implication is foreshadowing lockdown isolation later on. On March the 7th last year, I went to my last football match, a trip to Molyneux with my son. The usual away day rituals, the anticipation the night before, setting the alarm, those jokey conversations as the train pulls away from Euston with random Reading fans on their way to Birmingham, finding a McDonald's for the boy and getting lost walking around the ring road several times because I'd calculated that we'd need to arrive in good time, a ludicrous 2.5 hours before kick-off, and something unusual once we were inside the away end, the most intense hand-washing in the gents that I'd ever witnessed. On the pitch it was a grim 0-0 draw, which, though we didn't realise at the time, started to show that Graham Potter had enough in him tactically to keep us comfortably up in a season that was about to come to a halt. And then nothing. Weeks of nothing. Those drumbeats of a life-supporting club. The excuses to sit over a Big Mac with your 18-year-old, to have coffee with random strangers, to do most of the things that make up a life you filled with football for decades. Now silent. So, the usual away day rituals, the anticipation the night before, setting the alarm, those jokey conversations as the train pulls away from Euston with Reading fans on. The techniques of the nouns rituals, anticipation and the adjective jokey. The implication is that they're excited. In the next box it says a ludicrous 2.5 hours before kick-off and something unusual once we were inside the away end, the most intense hand-washing in the gents I'd ever witnessed. The technique is the adjective unusual, the noun hand-washing. The implication is that something sinister is happening. Comfortably up in a season that was about to come to a halt, and then nothing, weeks of nothing, those drumbeats of a life supporting a club. The repetition of the noun nothing and short sentences, the implication is despair. So, like many others, I struggled. March turned to April and on it went. I missed the connections I'd invented for myself, those trips with Nigel and Steve and Cameron from Lewis to Falmer, scooped into a full-up carriage like a Tokyo commuter train. I missed spotting Warren and Jim and having that same Albion conversation. Should be winning this. Whether at Victoria Station or in the Arthur Waite stand or outside the Emirates. I missed seeing blokes on the West Stand who I didn't really know outside of football or even their real names. Bozza from North Stand chat over there, Addy and Al, the Albion Raw podcast presenters, trying to get the crowd going, bumping into the bloke who sits behind me who was on top of the pops in the 1970s. I missed the weekly sneaky look in the row beneath us at whatever incredible partition lunchbox of goodies one dad had conjured up for his 6-year-old, hopefully future fan, to keep him occupied while he moaned about Solly March. I even missed eating that fantastic hot crumbly sausage roll from Piglet's Pantry, being almost proud that it cost an astonishing Brighton price at £4.10. So the techniques here are the repetition of the noun missed, which you can see boxed all over the page. The implication of that is sadness. The technique of the simile, like a Tokyo commuter, the implication is that the writer misses being close to other people. And the list of people he usually saw at matches, the implication is that he feels very isolated. Fast forward to December 2020. The city of Brighton and Hove is under Tier 2 restrictions, and thus Albion are one of the several clubs in the Premier League allowed to hold matches in front of 2,000 fans. Tickets go on sale for the game against Arsenal on December 29th. I nabbed some for my lot, which arrive with a list of terms and restrictions that runs to 2 pages. Please avoid close contact with others, including high fives, fist bumps and hugs. 2 days before Christmas, we learn the city will be in Tier 4 from Boxing Day, and we start all over again. A few weeks later, Dad calls. We've barely seen each other for much of 2020, just a handful of visits, most of them conducted in his immaculate back garden. This is the call I've been hoping for. I'm getting my vaccine tomorrow, he tells me, and then we move on to more important matters, like Brighton's miserable home form and whether Potter should go. This will end, my dad asks me. I pause and think, of course it will. By Jem Stone. So in this last section, the tone changes slightly. The adjective start all over again implies that there is some element of endurance to this situation. Quotations, the call I've been hoping for, more important matters, and of course it will, implies that the tone is now a lot more hopeful. Remember that all of these implications are actually analysis. They are what you should be including in your analysis. They are a different way of expressing the point that the writer is trying to make without the writer expressing it directly. It's your job to find the implication, put it in your analysis, and gain marks. Time to write. This is the question. Use any appropriate part of the text. How does the writer use language to express his feelings about the other people at the matches? Use the techniques and implications we found if you wish. Don't forget to use the petal structure.